Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Right now we're going to go over the least common denominator assignment that you were to do. I'm going to go over all of it and then I'm going to attach it to tomorrow's lesson when you have a chance to redo tomorrow's lesson, and if you don't get 100 then I'm going to pull all your teeth out or something mean. All right, we have the two fractions, 1/5 and 1/10. The instructions are to find the least common denominator. So I'm going to take my two denominators, which are 5 and 10, and I'm going to start listing the multiples. Now you also have a multiplication chart, so that would be real easy to look at as well. So you may want to do it that way. So we have the multiples of 5 are 10, 15, and I would keep going if need be. But if I look at it, already I can see that my least common multiple is 10. Because 10 is the first number that shows up as a multiple of both of these. Least means the first, the smallest number that shows up as a multiple of both of these. And that's what this is. So my least common multiple for 1/10 and 1/5 would be 10. And according to the assignment, that's all you have to do is put the least common multiple. Don't change it to a fraction, just put the least common multiple like the directions said. The next problem, or one of the next problems, I don't know, I didn't put them all. 1/3 and 2/9. So I have 1/3, I have 2/9. I'm going to change them, I'm going to list my two denominators, which are 3 and 9. And then I'm going to start listing my multiples of my denominators. So I got 3, 6, 9, 18. 3 is 9. Boom! 9 is my least common denominator. So if I had the problem 1/3 and 2/9 and it asks for the least common denominator, my answer would be 9. I don't know if that's on the assignment or not. But if it is, then 9's the answer. We have, next up, we're going to do 1/6 and 2/4. 1/6 and 2/4. And I'm supposed to find the least common denominator. I don't have to write the fraction. I'm just finding the least common denominator. I list my two denominators. And then I'm going to list the multiples of my denominators, and I find the first one that they have in common. So I have 6, 12, 18, and I'm only going to list a couple at a time. 4, 8, 12, boom. The first one they have in common is 12. So the least common denominator for 1/6 and 2/4 is 12. And that's what your answer would be if it asks for just the least common denominator. The next problem I'm going to do is 2/3 and 1/2. 2/3 and 1/2. It asks for the least common denominator. I take my two denominators, which are 3 and 2, and I start listing the multiples of my denominators till I find the first one they have in common, which if I have a multiplication chart, I can go ahead and use that as well. So I go 3, 6, 9, 12. I go 2, 4, 6. Oh boy. 6 is my least common denominator. So if the assignment asked for least common denominator, then my answer would be 6. Next, I have 3/4 and 3/8. The instructions are to find the least common denominator. I take my two denominators, which are 4 and 8. And I start listing the multiples. If I want, I can look at my multiplication chart. Multiples, multiplication, makes it easier. 4, 8, oh boom, I've already got it. The least common denominator is 8. Least common denominator is 8. So if this question was on an assignment, it asked for the least common denominator for 3/4 and 3/8. My answer would be 8. My next problem, 3/12 and 1/6. 3/12 and 1/6. The instructions say to find the least common denominator. I take my two denominators, which are 12 and 6. And I'm going to go through the multiples. I can look at a multiplication chart. And I'm going to put the first multiple that they have in common. 6 or 12, 24, 36, 6, 12, boom. My least common denominator for 1/6 and 3/12 is 12. Boom, shakalaka. Let's keep going. One more. Because this is the one that's most frequently missed when I look at these assignments. Mostly because of laziness, because you have to go out a little further to do it. But if you watch this video, then you'll be fine. We have 5/7 and 3/5. I take my two denominators, which are 7 and 5. And I'm going to list the multiples of my denominator. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Let's try 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Boom, 35 is my least common denominator. And if I was smart and knew my divisibility rules, I could just go down my 10s or my 7s, and I could find the first multiple of 7 that ended in a 5 or a 0, because I know my divisibility rules. The only multiples, or all the multiples of 5 end in a 5 or a 0. So that would be another easy way to do it. So that should help you get 100 on that assignment if you didn't. Remember, when you do the assignment, all you have to do is put the number, the denominator. You don't put it as a fraction. So boom, shakalaka, peace out, God bless, love you, do something kind today.